Jai Hind everyone. I am Shraddha Mishra, Assistant Professor, Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College from Department of Information Technology. In a previous lecture, we have discussed about the fundamentals of blockchain. Today, taking that forward, we will discuss further topics. So, what is blockchain? In a world where data is gold, blockchain is the vault. In plain words, blockchain, as the word says, it is a chain of blocks. So, block can store any information, be it transaction, voting details, real estate data, and so on. And this block is connected to further blocks with the help of the chain. Chain as in one block is going to hold the address of the previous block. So, if we tamper with the hash of any single block, it will change the hash of further blocks, making the further chains null and void. So, that is the crux of blockchain. Now, let's discuss the first topic for today, which is types of blockchain. So, there are mainly 4 types of blockchain. There is public blockchain, private blockchain, hybrid blockchain, and consortium blockchain. So, what is public blockchain? Public blockchain, as the name says, it's by default the blockchain we talk about, where, for example, there are 10 nodes in a network. So, each node will have the access to join the network and any other person can also join that network. It is in a decentralized manner, as in, if there is a copy of the ledger with one node, so that copy of the ledger the same copy will be distributed across all the 10 nodes. So, that is a public blockchain, means anyone can participate and it's in a decentralized fashion. So, it's a decentralized open network where anyone can join, view and participate in the consensus process. What are the advantages? It's very transparent. Obviously, there is no dominance of a single party here because the power is distributed. There's no sole authority. It's very transparent. The data is in an immutable fashion. It's encrypted. And there is decentralization, there is trustless environment. Participants, they don't have to trust each other because they trust the network blockchain. So, even if, let's say, there are different countries of the world participating in the blockchain network, they might not trust each other, but they trust the network, so they can go forward with it. Next, disadvantages. So, what are the disadvantages of a public blockchain? It is slower transaction speed. Since the consensus is required from each and every participant here, it is slower in speed. Energy consumption. So, in a public blockchain, there is a lot of power and energy which goes because of POW and different consensus algorithms, which we'll discuss further. So, here there's a complex mathematical puzzle which they have to solve in order to reach a consensus. So, that consumes a lot of energy and power. Lack of privacy. All transactions are public and they are traceable. Example, Bitcoin is the most widely used application of a public blockchain. We also use it for voting systems and we are also using it for our fundraising and other issues. Next, we come to private blockchain. So, private blockchain is a closed network where access is restricted to selected participants only. So, let's say, for example, there's one IT company, let's say TCS. So, tomorrow TCS says, I want to have my own private blockchain system. So, what TCS will do is, only the employees of TCS will have the access to add blocks to their network. No other IT company or non-IT company can add their participant here. So, access is restricted because it is sensitive data. They don't want their competitors to know that data, and their purpose is also served that they want the data to be stored in a very immutable and a very decentralized manner. But again, let's say CEO of TCS or the higher authorities of TCS, they do have a sole control on who they want to give access to see the data or add block to it. So, that is private blockchain, but it is much faster because you have a streamlined source of nodes whose consensus you depend upon. Right? So, advantages, faster transaction, scalability, you can scale it up as much you want. Privacy, transactions are only visible to the selected participants. If there is any sensitive data the CEO doesn't want even its employees to see, it can still restrict that. Control, organizations have full control over rules and data access. Next, disadvantages. Like I said, the essence of blockchain is decentralization, that the copy of the ledger is distributed across all the nodes and there is no single authority controlling it. But since the need of the hour is that we need our sensitive information to be away from the eyes of the modern world, so we need the private blockchain. So centralization is required, but it is again controlled. Lack of transparency. It is not open to public verification. Trust dependency requires trust in the controlling unit. So the entire employees of TCS, they need to have a complete trust over the CEO that okay, they are not going to misuse that data, though they might have access to it. So that trust is very fundamental here. Examples are Hyperledger Fabric, R3 Coda, Quorum, Ripple. So these are the blockchains which use our private blockchain. Also, if we talk about the supply chain management, asset ownership and internal voting, so these also use our private blockchain. So for instance, we need that in TCS only we have the vote that who's going to be the next higher authority for any post, let's say CEO. So for internal voting also we can use blockchain so that their promotion or everything is unaffected by whom they have voted for. So for the person they have voted will be encrypted, will not be visible to everyone in the network. So that is the essence of a private blockchain. Now, next is our hybrid blockchain. So hybrid blockchain combines features of both public and private blockchains. We call hybrid blockchain as it combines the best of both the worlds, which is public and private. Public means we don't want any single authority to be controlling it. Private means we want our sensitive information to be away from the public eyes or selective access to our data. So here in hybrid blockchain, we have flexible control, as in you can control who is a part of the network and who is not, whom you give access to sensitive data and whom not. And in the same way, the data is also decentralized. So that is the essence of a hybrid blockchain. Advantages: flexible control. Organizations can choose what data is public or private. Better scalability. Scalability means like you have a scale, right? And you have a 30 centimeter scale, you have a 45. So let's say if you have a bigger scale, so you can, based on the need requirement, for example, let's say my TCS employees headcount is 2500 here for Noida, and tomorrow I want to make it to 5000. So do I have the bandwidth to increase it to that level? So that is, in plain words, what you understand by scalability. So if we are able to scale it, for today I want a blockchain of 10 nodes, tomorrow I want it to be of 100 nodes. So does my organization have that bandwidth to stretch it to 100 nodes? So yes, in hybrid, you can customize accordingly. Enhanced privacy, of course, that's why we want hybrid, because the sensitive data can be protected. Disadvantages: complex setup and less transparency, because definitely when there is a controlled access coming, means there is an authority which is controlling the access, so it is definitely not that decentralized or that democratic. Examples: XDC network, Dragon chain, IBM blockchain. Also in the real estate and also for the highly regulated markets and the retail, also we are using hybrid blockchain these days. Next, we come to consortium blockchain. Consortium, in plain words, we talk about a federation coming together of certain organization. That's a consortium. So, for example, there is a company, IT company, let's say TCS. So, they are having a private blockchain. Tomorrow, let's say inspired by TCS, other IT companies also, they come together and they say, even we want to come in the blockchain network. So, for example, TCS, Wipro, Accenture and so on, different IT companies, they come together in the blockchain network. So, we will say that is a consortium blockchain. So, in plain words, you can say private blockchain is a subset of a consortium blockchain where there's entire domain hub for a technology. Example, there's any non-IT person or let's say a business person, they want to enter here in the IT company's blockchain, they cannot, right? So, consortium blockchain is a permissioned blockchain. You have to take a, we will discuss that we also further bifurcated into permissioned and permissionless. Permissionless, as we say, is the essence of a blockchain that you don't need permission to be a part of the network, which is a public blockchain by default. And a permission means you are controlling access of who is going to be a part of the network, who can access your data or not. You need a permission. So as the name says, it's a permissioned blockchain. Private blockchain is also a permissioned blockchain. So a consortium blockchain, it's a permission blockchain which is controlled by a group of organizations rather than a single entity. Advantages: shared control. There are multiple trusted parties who manage the network. Faster and scalable, secure and private. Disadvantages: it is less centralized, requires trust among consortium members, but its governance is very complex because, for example, there are CEOs of different companies. Now, who is going to be having the upper hand or giving the sole authority is also a question. So, the governance is little complex and the trust also has to be very intact among all the companies. Examples: Marco Polo, it's a trade finance network which is run by global banks. They are using consortium blockchain. WeTrade, Energy Web Chain, and IBM Food Trust. Food industry supply chain tracking is being done by IBM Food Trust, and they are the ones who use consortium blockchain. And nowadays, banking sector is also using, your research sector and food tracking, they are also using our consortium blockchain. Now, next, going forward, we are going to see this Venn diagram. So you can see there is public blockchain, there is private and consortium blockchain, and combining the best of the both worlds is our hybrid blockchain, which is controlled by one authority with some permissionless processes, right? And a public, there is no central authority. Private, it is controlled by one authority. Consortium, controlled by a group. So coming to our next topic, which is about the advantages of blockchain. So there is decentralization. So we have already discussed why is there a need of blockchain. Because, for example, let's say there are 3 friends and they are coming into a blockchain network. So the entire transaction chain they have is with them. Now they want that, for example, they have 3 other group of friends. They want that copy of the ledger to be shared with those other 3 friends also, so that if anybody tampers with the data, the notification, that alarm alert is with all the friends and nobody can tamper with it. Any change is reflected to all of them. And if they want to add another, let's say some more money to the account or any more addition they want to do in their group collection, so that is with the consent of all the members. So that is the essence of decentralization. There is no single person who's controlling that network. Transparency, like I said, that all the transactions are transparent, everyone can notice. Immutability, once data is recorded, it cannot be altered or deleted. Security, yes, it's just not the data which is stored in the block, it is also encrypted and a hash is generated for that block, which is a very unique value, and it's a 32-bit fixed amount, which we'll discuss further. So that is unique for all the blocks and nobody can tamper with it. What are the disadvantages of blockchain? High energy consumption. Definitely, if you will see the consensus algorithms, for example, proof of work, there's a lot of power and energy which is being consumed. It's also said that the entire Ireland's energy population, or we can say the energy requirement, is equal to the energy which is used in the consensus of proof of work. Scalability issues, it's very difficult to scale it because there is a limit and there's a time limit in which we can add a single block. So it is very time consuming. It said that it takes 10 minutes to add one block or mine a block. So simultaneously, if you have to mine hundreds of blocks, so definitely it's a very time consuming. So transactions per second speed, which we call as TPS, is very low. Next is storage limitations. Blockchain nodes store all transactions history, so you definitely need a very large storage house for it. Regulatory uncertainty. For blockchain to be accepted worldwide, there's a lot of organizations whose consent we need, and it has to adhere to their standards. Complex technology. You need somebody to teach you the know-hows of blockchain, how do you implement it. Irreversibility of transactions. Once your data is in the blockchain system, nobody can delete it. For example, let's say there's Apple iCloud, you have a photo, you deleted, recently deleted, you deleted from that also, but still the footprint of that photo is there in the digital world. Similarly, in the blockchain, even if you delete a transaction and you don't want any trace of that transaction to be there in the world, still that is going to be there because that is there in the blockchain network. Another disadvantage of blockchain is it is used sometimes for illegal purpose, because we say the transaction is done from address to address. So you have the anonymity. So for terrorist work and for other illegal purposes, people misuse also blockchain. Next, we are discussing about the architecture of blockchain. So what is the need of a architecture? So blockchain has a very layered architecture. So like we know that blockchain technology is an amalgamation of various types of technology like maths computation, peer-to-peer network, validation protocols. So, eliminating presence of a central government authority, we need certain layers to be there which come together and work for blockchain. So, it is basically consists of 5 layers. Hardware or infrastructure layer. So, your blockchain technology is made of different layers which give us this concrete and robust structure. So first is your hardware or infrastructure layer, which is virtual machine, containers, mining rig. So all your systems or your nodes you have in the entire network, they come together, they form the part of your hardware or infrastructure layer. So where your data is going to be stored, that database which you have, that is actually your node, a system of nodes, which is your hardware infrastructure layer. Next is the data layer. So any data you store in that block will be a part of your data layer. Any block you add to it and any block which you keep linking. So that constitutes your data layer, which is your digital signature, and you sign your information in the data with the help of a private key. So that is your digital signature, hash, Merkle tree, transactions. Next is your network layer. Network layer means it's a peer-to-peer network. So all the consensus protocols and related are going to be part of this layer. Consensus layer. So here the entire consensus is done and the block is finally added to the network. Next is application and presentation layer. So blockchain we can say is like a backend, and you need certain applications which will help you interact with the user. So those are your decentralized apps or DApps. Smart contracts, chain code, UI. So these are your final interface which you call as application or decentralized layer or presentation layer. Let's discuss in detail. So what is hardware layer? Hardware layer serves as the physical foundation of the blockchain network. Here we have nodes and the mining equipments, cloud infrastructure. So these are the part of your hardware which constitute blockchain system. So it's not just the computers, but it is also the mining equipments we would need and also the cloud infrastructure for storage. What is the function? It provides the necessary computational power and storage to support the blockchain's operations. Next, we have the data layer. It manages the structure and storage of data within the blockchain. So data layer, as the name says, it is going to deal about the storage of your data. So blocks are containers which hold batches of transactions. So block transactions, Merkle trees. Merkle trees we'll discuss further. That is hierarchical data structures which efficiently store your data. So they store your data in the block in a hierarchical tree fashion. So those are Merkle tree. Hash functions, algorithms which produce unique digital footprints or fingerprints of data. Like everyone has unique fingerprint. Similarly, every block will have a unique hash for their block. These all constitute your data layer. What are the functions? Ensures data is stored securely and can be verified efficiently across the network. Next, we come to network layer. So, network layer facilitates communication between nodes in the blockchain network. Peer-to-peer network, node discovery mechanisms. So, for one node to find which node to add, data propagation. So, distributes transactions and blocks across the network. Security protocols, it protects against attacks. It sees that if any block is going to be added, is it not a malicious node, or if there is any, what is the validity of that block. Function ensures all nodes can communicate efficiently and maintains network's integrity and resilience, so that every node is an authentic node and they are able to communicate, right? Because if we see the network layer, there are when you are adding a block to a chain, there are chances of a multi-chain in the block. For example, there is one chain and another branch can propagate from it. So we have to see which is the valid, so that there is it's in a single chain format only. So that purpose network layer serves for us. Next is our consensus layer. It ensures all nodes agree on the blockchain's current state, right? For example, they all have consent that yes, the block we are adding to the chain is a authentic one. It consists of consensus algorithms, which we will discuss in the next lecture, block validation processes, then fork resolution. So all of these form part of your consensus layer. Function maintains the integrity and consistency of the blockchain by ensuring all participants agree on the ledger's state. Next, last but not the least layer, which is your application layer. It forms the forefront of your blockchain. It gives a face to the blockchain which we can identify with. So application layer provides user-facing applications which interact with the blockchain. Components are decentralized applications which we call as DApps. Applications which run on a blockchain network offering various services like finance, gaming or social networking. User interfaces, APIs, interfaces which enable communication between DApps and the blockchain. So what is its function? It delivers the functionalities which end users interact with, facilitating various use cases of blockchain technology, right? So basically, application layer provides you with the functionalities which blockchain has to offer. So these were the 5 layers of blockchain. Now, after the architecture of blockchain, let's understand about consensus. Consensus is derived from the word consent. Consent means our approval, right? For example, we go on a family trip. Let's say we are a family of 10 members. Here, and you are planning to go for a holiday. So, everybody is going to have their set of preferred location to go to. For example, 5 people in your family say they want to go to Goa, let's say a beach place, and another 4 says they want to go to Shimla, a mountain, or another one says they want to explore northeast, let's say Darjeeling. So here the majority is with Goa. So the consent is for the Goa, so that will be the final destination for their holiday. Similarly, it is a consensus, means for example, there are 10 nodes in the network. So out of all the 10 nodes, the majority nodes, if they agree that the node you are agreeing to add to the network is not a malicious one, it's an authentic one, then they are going to add it to the network. So there are different protocols to give your consent. For example, I ask, I want to choose a monitor for this class. So somebody can raise their hands. I can get the consent or majority from that way. Somebody, I would say, I would give chits of paper and I would ask you write your names, whoever you want to become a monitor, and you put in a secret box. Whoever has a majority, I'll select that. Or there can be a different way. Okay, I can just ask, I can create 3 group of people and I can say that for the one, they are going to vote the maximum. So to get the consent or the majority, there are different ways. Similarly, in blockchain, for us to add a new block to the network, there are different consensus protocols, right? We are going to explore that. So what is a consensus? Consensus refers to the process of achieving agreement among distributed nodes in a network regarding the validity of transactions or data. It ensures that all participants have a unified and accurate copy of the ledger. So we have 8 types of consensus protocols mainly. First is proof of work, proof of stake, delegated proof of stake, proof of capacity, Byzantine fault tolerance, proof of elapsed time, proof of activity and proof of authority. So we will be discussing these in the further lectures, right? Now let's start with proof of work. Before that, let's understand what are the requirements for a consensus protocol. It has to be in sync, means agreement. All the nodes have to come for a unanimous decision. Integrity, there has to be no false transaction which has to take place. Fault tolerance, even if there are some malicious nodes, still the majority should be intact by the authentic nodes. Scalability, you can scale it up to whichever quantity you want. Decentralization, there should not be a single entity which has the sole authority to give the consent. It's always based on the majority. So these are some of the requirements for our consensus protocols. So let's explore our first and the most important consensus protocol. It is also the most widely used protocol, which is proof of work. So proof of work, as the name says, what is your proof of work? For example, let's say I tell I have written 20 pages today. So if somebody asks what is the proof you have for it, I will show, okay, you see this copy, I have written it and today's date is also marked, right? Similarly, when somebody says I have added this, I'm the one who's added this block to the blockchain. So we will ask them proof. What is the proof that it is you who has added this block, and I will reward you accordingly. So for that, they have to solve a complex mathematical puzzle. So they give a fair chance to all the participants in the network. Let's say there was a system of 9 nodes and the 10th node has to be added. Let's say the 10th block has to be added to that network. So all the other 9 nodes, right, are going to give a consensus should we add this new block. So for that, there are different participants who will compete to solve a complex mathematical puzzle. So the one who will solve that mathematical puzzle first will be the one who will have the right to add that block. So a blockchain consensus mechanism where miners solve complex mathematical puzzle to validate transactions and secure the network. So let's try to understand with the help of this diagram. So we can see there's a miner, right? They have generated a block. Then they're going to solve the complex mathematical puzzle. Then if that puzzle is solved, they have certain reward, which is a Bitcoin given. Then a new block is added. All the other nodes will verify, yes, he has authentically added, and we will add that block and process goes on. To further understand, let's see. So there's a transaction collection. Unconfirmed transactions are gathered into a mempool by nodes. So there's a transaction collection. First they collect the transactions and they form a block. That's what we learned about blockchain. How is a block formed? For example, I went to a party with my friends and I have done payments for, let's say, 10 different things. So I have 10 different transactions with me. For all of the 10 transactions, I'll create a block. So I'll keep all my 10 transactions in that. Now a block is created. Now when a block is created, then we will generate a hash for it, a unique ID for it, so that nobody can see my transactions there. Then there is also a nonce which is generated. We'll discuss what is a nonce later. Proof of work puzzle. Now a complex mathematical puzzle will be given. You want to add this block to the network? Okay, you solve this puzzle. Next is block validation and broadcasting. So the first miner to solve that puzzle is going to broadcast that block to all the nodes. They will verify, yes, it's a right block, fine. For example, there's a new news which comes into the market, okay, that there's an explosion in the city. So if all the news channel broadcasted to their news channel, to their studios, and they say that yes, it's a valid news, only then we believe in that news, right? We broadcast it to different channels. Similarly, the transaction which is done or that block which is created, it is circulated to all the nodes, and once they approve, only then we will add it. So that is block addition to blockchain, mining reward and transaction confirmation. And finally, we will discuss what is nonce. So what is nonce? A nonce is introduced during the proof of work hashing function as a way to enhance the difficulty level of the mining process. The role of a nonce is to ensure the creation of a unique hash. So let's see the structure of a block. There is a timestamp, there's a nonce, data, previous hash and a hash. So like I said, hash is like a fingerprint of your block, which is very unique. So that hash is a fixed 32-bit ID which is generated. Now from the output, if we have to guess the input, definitely brute force. Hit and try we have to guess, only then we can guess what is the 32-bit generated. Because it is generated by computer, it is humanly not possible to generate or guess that exact hash if you want to crack that hash. So there's a value which is called nonce. For example, let's say a linear equation, x plus 2y is 3. So for different values of x, we will try, and we have a value of y, let's say y equals to 1. So for different values of x, we will try that the equation is satisfied, and that is the same as nonce. So x is our nonce. For the different values, we try so that we can hack that hash. So how it works, I will explain you with the help of this flow diagram. So we start, we propose a new block, combine and hash. So there's a header given to a block, then you have a hash number generated. So we check that whatever nonce value we have hit and try, if that value gives us a hash value which is at least less or equal to the hash value generated by the computer, then we will add that block to the blockchain, right? So increment, try again, keep trying the nonce value until it comes near to your hash value. Let's say hash value was generated and I try for x equals to 1, x equals to 2. So for example, x equals to 100. That value is satisfied and it is equal to the hash value. At least let's say, for example, let's say hash value is 50, let's say 500. So with x equals to 100, my value is 480, which comes near to 500. So my nonce value is accepted. I have solved that complex mathematical puzzle and I can add that block to my hash chain. So that is what you understand by hash value and the nonce. So this is how proof of work works. So what are the advantages? There's highly secure, decentralized, and there are incentives which are given, right? Every time they add the block, they have certain bitcoins which are rewarded to them. Those bitcoins they can use and further participate in addition of new blocks. Disadvantages, there is high energy consumption. It's a very expensive process. It is not at all environmental friendly because a lot of power and energy is consumed. Like I said, whatever power electricity is used in the entire island country, it is said that it is almost comparative to that, how much energy we spend on proof of work. Examples, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day ahead. I hope this lecture helped. So the further consensus protocols we are going to discuss in our next lecture. Thank you.